forgive him. On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
When Erika Kirk stood on that stage, voice calm, eyes clear, and said she forgave the man accused of ending her husband's life, the internet froze. Some called it faith, others called it impossible. But one voice, loud, calculated, and unflinching, asked the question millions were thinking. Why forgive someone so fast? Candace Owens didn't just question it, she condemned it. In her words, the forgiveness that she granted, it's just unmatched. But that wasn't praise, it was disbelief. How could someone forgive before answers even existed? Before evidence? Before motive? Before grief had time to breathe? To Candace, something about that tone didn't sound holy, it sounded rehearsed. That reaction part, moral outrage, part investigative instinct, is what cracked open the entire controversy. Candace didn't just react to Erika's forgiveness, she mobilized.
Charlie was done with Israel bullying him, and I am now going to present you proof of what I am saying. This is an actual group chat, which happened 2 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. There were 9 people in total on this chat, including Charlie and Rob McCoy. I'm going to protect the names of the other 7 for now. To be clear, I might actually release a name every day this week, but I want to show you this because suffice it to say, Rob McCoy was on this text thread, and I think it helps contextualize him as a person, in my view, that he would attack me for telling the truth about the pressure that he was facing. Take a look. So Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, ugh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. And somebody writes, a donor writes, please do not invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term. In my opinion, like all groups, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed on us makes life frustrating at times after the dust settles a bit, maybe. So again, this is 48 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was very clear and he was very explicit, and he did not back down, not in that Hamptons meeting, which they're all lying about, nor in this text thread.
On her next podcast, she came in hot, voice steady but burning with disbelief. We are not getting the truth right now of what happened to Charlie Kirk, she said, leaning on each word like a gavel. It wasn't just commentary anymore, it was a declaration of investigation. She told her audience she was building an entire reconstruction. I demand it. I'm now currently working on a minute-by-minute timeline. In those few seconds, Candace flipped the dynamic from emotion to evidence. It was no longer about whether Erika's forgiveness felt odd, it was about whether the timeline itself made sense.
I'm not going to reveal the names of the other 7. Actually, you know what? I disagree with myself 4 seconds ago. Let's just throw in Josh Hammer for funsies. He's on this chat, okay? So what are we to make of that? Okay, now that I'm showing you this and showing to you that the conversations were real, I want you to reflect, and it took me a lot of patience to allow the lies that were being woven and the misrepresentations of people that were pretending that I was just, high on lying about Charlie and the pressure he was under, the attacks that not just me, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly faced for trying to stand up and tell the truth about what Charlie was actually going through. Why are you hearing it though from me and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly? Isn't that weird? You got people that are hosting a show. Have they in like one honorable thing come out and said like, you know what? F a couple of these donors who made his life a living hell over the last couple of weeks. Why?
She invited her listeners to help, to send tips, to comb through screenshots, photos, text logs, and live stream timestamps. Within hours, Reddit threads, Telegram groups, and spaces were buzzing with people calling themselves minute-by-minute volunteers. The language she used was deliberate. She didn't accuse directly, she implied. She hinted, and she did it in a way that felt both righteous and forensic. That balance made her sound less like a gossip and more like an investigator standing up for a fallen friend. When she said, I believe that people within that company betrayed Charlie, the internet gasped. It wasn't the claim alone, it was the specificity of it. People within that company. It made listeners think of names, offices, phone calls. It made them imagine hidden Slack messages and late night meetings. And that's the secret to Candace's reach precision wrapped in passion. She gives just enough detail to make you picture the rest yourself. Each sentence carries the rhythm of certainty, even when she says she's just asking questions. The result? Curiosity disguised as conviction. She kept toggling between empathy and suspicion, and that emotional duality glued her audience to the screen. At one point, she even praised Erika's public grace, the forgiveness that she granted. It's just unmatched. But within seconds, she twisted that praise into skepticism. Unmatched because it was unreal, because it came too soon, because it felt rehearsed. Viewers could feel her tone shifting mid-sentence, admiration curdling into accusation. That tonal swing is what made the segment viral.
I'm not going to reveal the names of the other 7. Actually, you know what? I disagree with myself 4 seconds ago. Let's just throw in Josh Hammer for funsies. He's on this chat, okay? So what are we to make of that? Okay, now that I'm showing you this and showing to you that the conversations were real, I want you to reflect, and it took me a lot of patience to allow the lies that were being woven and the misrepresentations of people that were pretending that I was just, high on lying about Charlie and the pressure he was under, the attacks that not just me, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly faced for trying to stand up and tell the truth about what Charlie was actually going through. Why are you hearing it though from me and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly? Isn't that weird? You got people that are hosting a show. Have they, in like one honorable thing, come out and said, like, you know what? F a couple of these donors who made his life a living hell in the last couple of weeks. Why haven't they?
As clips spread across social platforms, her followers began treating her words like leads in an investigation. They made timelines. They matched timestamps to travel data. They compared the calmness of Erika's speech with photos from backstage. The internet was turning into a jury and Candace was its prosecutor. She fueled it with more teasers. If something doesn't add up, she told listeners, it's because someone doesn't want it to. That line echoed through comment sections, repeated like a mantra. It didn't matter whether she meant a cover-up, a PR spin, or divine irony, it sounded like exposure. And sound bites that feel like exposure are click gold.
There's also a rabbi in that chat. Like, why hasn't anybody made that move to at least say, to vindicate what I have been saying about what he was going through? That registers to me as very suspicious. I'm going to frankly say that. It's suspicious to me. It makes me think that in the same way that Charlie was being pressured by money, that you might be now run by that same money.
By the end of that episode, the tone had changed completely. This wasn't a conversation about faith anymore. It was an unfolding investigation with a central villain, secrecy. Candace had drawn a line on one side, the people asking questions. On the other, those protecting the narrative. She cast herself as the lone truth teller standing against a corporate machine, and her audience rewarded her for it with millions of views and endless reposts. That's how a question about forgiveness became a crusade for answers. Candace didn't just comment on the story, she became the story, and the world was suddenly waiting to see what her timeline would reveal next. But the debate wasn't simple outrage. It struck at something deeper. Faith, forgiveness, and optics. Erika's public grace was praised by some Christian circles as divine strength, but Candace saw it differently. She said forgiveness had been weaponized, a way to quiet the truth before it could surface.
It took Charlie Kirk dying for me to literally, I want you to know, F you. Like, truly, I mean that. I don't care. I'll expose everything. You guys who are watching know what I know. So tell the truth. Just tell the truth for once in your miserable lives.
Her argument was sharp. Forgiveness doesn't mean silence. It doesn't erase the need for answers. She asked the question others were too polite to say out loud. Was Erika forgiving or performing? This line cut deep, especially because Erika's background wasn't unknown. A pageant past, political ties, and years in media made people wonder, was this reaction just too polished for real grief? Candace's disbelief tapped into that suspicion and turned a quiet ceremony into an internet referendum on authenticity. By the third episode in her series, Candace Owens stopped tiptoeing. The skepticism that began with one woman's forgiveness had grown into a full-blown accusation aimed straight at one of the most influential conservative organizations in America, Turning Point USA. She told her audience flat out, "I believe that people within that company betrayed Charlie. Not outsiders, not random critics, people within." Those two words changed everything, because when a name like Candace Owens points inward toward an institution built by the very man whose death she's investigating, that's no longer commentary.
It took Charlie Kirk dying for me to literally, I want you to know, F you. Like, truly, I mean that. I don't care. I'll expose everything. You guys who are watching know what I know. So tell the truth. Just tell the truth for once in your miserable lives.
That's rebellion. Candace's tone in that episode was part investigative journalist, part courtroom prosecutor. She rattled off rhetorical questions. Who was on duty that night? Who controlled communications? Why was information locked down so quickly? Each question landed like a punch. She insisted she wasn't accusing individuals, only seeking truth. But her phrasing painted a picture that felt unmistakable, a network of insiders protecting a narrative. She highlighted what she called unanswered discrepancies. According to her, text messages between staffers didn't align with the public statements TPUSA later issued. Emails were allegedly withheld. Certain employees, she claimed, had gone dark. Candace hinted that key footage from the event was being sheltered under legal review, and that's the power of her delivery. Candace frames doubt as duty. She tells her audience that questioning leadership isn't rebellion, it's loyalty to the truth. Her listeners, many of whom already admired Charlie Kirk, adopted her outrage as their own. In their eyes, this wasn't Candace attacking TPUSA, it was Candace defending Charlie from the inside. Soon, hashtags started popping up. Hawking justice for Charlie. Adding TPUSA tell the truth. Caughting Candace was right. Followers clipped moments from her show, "We Are Not Getting the Truth Right Now," and spread them across every social platform. Each repost pushed the tension higher. The story was no longer about one widow's forgiveness. It was now about whether a major organization was hiding something. Behind the scenes, TPUSA tried to contain the fire. They released brief statements calling Candace's insinuations baseless and harmful. But by then, control had slipped. Every official denial only fed the perception of secrecy. When a company says there's nothing to see here, audiences trained by internet scandals instinctively assume the opposite. Candace knew that, and she used it. She urged her viewers to watch the patterns, to note how statements were being worded, how footage releases were delayed, how internal figures stayed silent. Her followers...
Charlie's neck indeed did stop the bullet. Without question, okay? And this is going to dispel a lot of theories that are out there. And I'm telling you this 100%. Charlie Kirk was shot from the front, and the bullet did not exit. And at least a fragment of the bullet was recovered from his neck. And I'm going to tell you exactly where it was recovered from. I have fact-checked this information from multiple sources now. I've actually been sitting on this for a little bit over a week.
Red circle screenshots of deleted posts started circulating. Former staff names were dropped into threads. People began treating speculation like digital detective work. And Candace, she didn't slow down. She teased new information coming soon. She spoke about whistleblowers, anonymous emails, unnamed insiders, the perfect ingredients for sustained suspense. Even when she didn't deliver specifics, the promise of revelation kept the retention curve steep. Every week, more people tuned in to see if this would be the episode where she finally named names. To her supporters, she was fearless, someone willing to challenge her own side for the sake of truth. To her critics, she was reckless, dragging a grieving family and a major organization through public suspicion without evidence. But that dichotomy is exactly what drives viewership. The people who agree with her want updates. The ones who disagree can't look away. By the end of that segment, Candace had reframed the narrative entirely. The question was no longer, why did Erika forgive so soon? It was, who inside the USA wanted the truth buried? And that shift from personal emotion to institutional intrigue is what made this story impossible to ignore.
Right around here. So think about almost in line with your shoulder blade right in the center. Now, why is that helpful? Because it gives us a bullet trajectory, okay? Went in here where you saw that, and it was stopped, and a fragment was pulled from, think right, if you're just touching your spine in line with your shoulder blade. That leads us obviously to the part that he's maybe not being forthcoming about. They did not recover a bullet from a .30-06. They didn't recover a bullet from a .30-06, just didn't happen, okay? If it found a .30-06 bullet, Charlie's death certificate certainly would have reflected that. In suicide situations, as just one example, medical examiners, feel free to chime in. I've spoken to quite a few, but when the gun and the bullet are known, they are reflected onto the death certificate, okay?
Candace had built a story that was half investigation, half revolution. And her next target wasn't just a company, it was time itself. She was about to challenge the official timeline down to the very minute it all went wrong. Then came the evidence hunt. Full CCTV footage surfaced and Candace's followers dissected it frame by frame. Viewers noticed how Michael McCoy, an aide on stage, moved away the moment chaos started. To Candace's audience, that didn't look random.
There is not one reflected onto Charlie Kirk's death certificate because they did not recover a bullet from a .30-06. Hunters and military men rejoice. It turns out that common sense still rules the roost, okay? You guys were right.
Her audience ran with it, analyzing time zones, metadata, and screenshots. Experts warned about syncing errors, but for Candace's followers, that gap wasn't a glitch, it was proof. In one episode, she hinted, "I'm not inclined to believe that at this moment." That doubt kept people watching, refreshing, and debating. By the time Candace reached her 6th broadcast on the subject, emotion had hardened into analysis. Her whiteboard was covered in arrows, timestamps, and screenshots. The words "the object" were written across the top in thick black marker. To her, this wasn't about feelings anymore, it was about physics. Early reports had described the weapon as a family heirloom, an antique piece that had supposedly been kept in a display case. It sounded poetic, almost tragic, an old relic misused in a modern world. But the still images didn't match that story. Candace paused the footage on screen, zoomed in, and said flatly, "That doesn't look antique to me." Her viewers agreed. Side-by-side comparisons began popping up online. The weapon in the police photo versus catalog shots from modern manufacturers. The finishes looked different. The serial placements off. Was it just bad lighting or something more deliberate? She replayed the clip again, this time in slow motion. "Look right there," she told the audience. "You can see how reflective it is. That's not patina. That's polish." It was speculation, but it sounded like revelation. Viewers flooded the comments with theories, some plausible, some outlandish, and the debate shifted from morality to metallurgy. The more she zoomed, the more questions she asked. Who stored it? Who brought it? Why was it allowed near the venue? According to Candace, the object's presence suggested access that ordinary guests couldn't have. Someone had to approve it, she said. That means paperwork, security, fingerprints, literal or digital. She wasn't accusing, she was circling. But circling is often all an audience needs to start connecting dots. Then came the technical rebuttals. A handful of online experts argued that the weapon shown could age that way under certain conditions: exposure, humidity, temperature. Instead of silencing the rumor, those explanations only made it richer. Candace used their own posts as fuel. "If experts can't agree," she said, "maybe that tells you how murky this has become." It was the perfect pivot. Uncertainty presented as proof that something was being hidden.
You're absolutely right. And this is why I hate politics, because it requires us to submit to the idea that we were all somehow born yesterday. It means that he was shot with a completely different kind of gun, obviously, okay? The kind where this would make sense, that it didn't cut through him. The kind where it would make sense that outside of an artery effectively exploding from the front, there was, his neck didn't explode, which that particular weapon that they were trying to tell us Charlie was killed with would have gone through about 7 necks. There were people who were insisting, by the way, that were on the ground, the witnesses that were insisting that they heard multiple shots.
She expanded her scope, moving from the object to the entire scene. She replayed aerial footage, stills from the event, the positioning of chairs and speakers, even the pattern of the carpet. "Objects tell stories," she said. "When the story changes, look at the object." That line became a slogan across her comment sections. Fans started uploading diagrams, tracing possible trajectories, overlaying grids on screenshots. They weren't looking for closure, they were looking for contradiction. Soon, Candace began linking the physical questions back to human ones. If the heirloom narrative was false, who invented it? If the weapon wasn't what officials claimed, why repeat the same description word for word in every press statement? She speculated that the choice of wording might have been strategic, meant to invoke sympathy rather than suspicion. "Call something an heirloom," she said, "and people picture sentiment instead of strategy." The line went viral within hours. Even mainstream commentators began to notice. Joe Rogan discussed the story briefly on his show, musing about the same inconsistencies Candace had flagged: the age of the item, the logistics of bringing it in, and the unexplained handling gaps between the incident and law enforcement's arrival. That mention alone gave the theory a second life, introducing it to millions who hadn't followed the saga at all. What made this phase of the story so captivating wasn't evidence, it was texture. Candace turned ordinary details, lighting, grip, reflections into cinematic clues. She gave audiences permission to play detective, to feel like they were discovering truth alongside her. Every freeze frame felt like progress, every comparison like revelation. It was the thrill of the chase without the burden of proof. And yet, behind all the energy, one question kept echoing. If the object doesn't match the description, what else doesn't? That question propelled her audience into the next obsession timeline reconstruction. If physical details could be wrong, maybe temporal ones were too. Maybe the official story didn't just hide an object, maybe it hid an entire sequence. Candace was ready for that. In her next episode, she promised to show how time itself, the very minutes surrounding the event, might have been rewritten. And for an audience already trained to doubt, that promise was irresistible. Then came the blowback. Candace claimed on air, "Over the weekend, somebody reported me to the FBI and the CIA." It sounded wild, but she framed it as proof that she'd hit a nerve. Critics said she crossed ethical lines, accusing her of inflaming rumors without evidence, but others saw her as fearless. Her investigation gained fans who felt mainstream outlets were ignoring obvious red flags. Meanwhile, Erika's image took hits. What began as admiration for her strength turned into skepticism, even anger. Candace insisted that this wasn't just about gossip, it was about integrity. And whether you agreed or not, her message landed. This is just coming from regular people around the world. She positioned herself as the voice of the public, the only one asking questions no one else dared to. Now, months later, the noise hasn't quieted, it's only evolved. There's still no conclusive proof that Candace's theories are true. There's also no complete evidence disproving them. What remains are fragments, a timeline gap, conflicting videos, deleted posts, and the uneasy truth that sometimes public tragedies become public property. Candace's podcast changed the tone of this conversation forever. She blended outrage, investigation, and performance into something YouTube was built to amplify a story that never truly ends. The question isn't just whether Erika forgave too soon, it's whether forgiveness, in the age of viral skepticism, even survives public trust. So, what do you think? Was Candace right to question everything, or did her disbelief turn pain into content? Drop your take below, and if you want more breakdowns separating evidence from emotion, subscribe. The next part may arrive sooner than anyone expects.